Does this one work? Hello.
Is it conservation easements? Is that what we're doing? Okay. Pull up, put it into present mode. Where is that at? Present. Present. So here's where I get confused. Present mode. At the top right corner, there is a button called Display Settings. I don't see anything that says Display Settings. I'm horrible at this. I mean, so horrible. I'm not gonna be any more help. I'm just bad. Well, it always looks like it makes sense when Josh is here, but when I have to do it myself. Yeah. I'm computer peoples. Put it into present mode.
Is that how, is it have that on how?
Yeah, where's that at? Oh, wait. No.
Is it view?
View.
The top? I feel like that's a PowerPoint thing, not a Zoom.
Review, record. See, I thought it would be under slideshow,
Yeah.
but no. Transition, design, insert, home. slideshow. Presentation. What do I want? I want to present today. At the top right-hand corner, there is a button labeled display setting. I don't see that either.
I like to put the mics like right in their faces.
Well, you don't put it up. You want this one up too?
Yeah, I'm gonna put that over there. I don't think we have Daniel, and I don't know if Sally has actually resigned yet.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I don't know, Dan, I talked to him, he's real happy. Well, he's concerned, we talked about this morning, referring that, and then you're looking at both.
yeah, I already wrote it.
That's great, too.
Well, I'll
And then-
circle around with legal and then bring it to y'all in October.
Sure. And I saw, or I got an email from Daniel saying he could not.
Yes, Daniel will be here. But we may have additional legislative changes because the short session just finished.
Addition,
The short session just finished. So we may have additional revisions that we need to make. But school of government sends out like a bulletin.
sure,
And that's how we make the revisions. So once I get that, I'll work on those.
yeah, there's no rush on that.
Well, there is a rush because they are.
Well, I know, but there's no rush if you don't have it.
No, exactly. I can't. I have no idea what I'm supposed to change unless someone tells me to.
There's sweet Angie.
Hey there.
Hey, we love you, we're so sorry about your mom.
Thank you.
So we're glad you're back and we can help you anyway.
Angie just wants to know people are thinking about her
That's right.
and sending her stuff.
That's true.
Oh, Bill, while you're here, let me get your
Sure.
signature on these. These are from January and February. I believe we made a revision to February's minutes, and I just don't think I ever circled around and got yours.
Savannah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Always gotta do record keeping. I love my paper.
There
Hello.
he is, Mr. Tucker.
How are you?
How are you?
Did you see my email this morning?
Oh, I did.
I can't open that file.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so if you want to just forward it to people, to the commission, that would be great. It's
Okay.
weird. I've had this happen before. It's a graphic something. It's not
Yeah.
like that. I can't open the file.
Okay, let's see.
So I didn't print it.
I printed like 4 copies of it. That's probably enough to just space out on the table.
I can run a couple more
Okay.
off.
Well, Mr. Tucker, you've been busy.
I have.
Rachel, can you come here one more second?
I would love to. You guys.
Press these buttons in order. You didn't press it in order. No, I did. You didn't press the B. Okay. So my issue is how do I get it on that screen?
You doing well?
Yes, doing real well. I hope you are.
I am.
I need to share my screen, right? Is that the issue? It seems to be. So now.
Are you up for the summer now?
I mean, we're up here full time, so, other than leaving, we do have an apartment still in Decatur, and one of our sons is already living there, the other son and his fiance are moving back there in next week, actually, so we'll be spending some time there periodically, but
But y'all are here then.
full time, North Carolina residents, voters, drivers, yeah, exactly.
Florida doesn't have an income tax, so we very reluctantly they came to North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, that's a big decision.
Morning. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning,
How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Beautiful day.
Oh, it really is gorgeous. I love this
You
temperature.
registered? I just registered.
Registered?
For what?
Oh, yeah, I can do that now, sure. You're gonna go to our class?
Yep.
You are?
No. No, that's too much work for me.
Hold on, not more than an hour and a half.
I've got to leave after 15 minutes.
Okay, so then why don't I get Bill, do you mind, moving over one, just so
Sure.
Alan, if you want to speak out?
I would not let you leave, I'm sorry.
What's that?
That's a breach of your fiduciary responsibility.
Yes, what do you want? Wait a minute.
There's a fine, there's a fine.
There's a line involved, okay. Well, put it on my tab.
You have to buy a martini for each member of your commission.
Plus, it's another 2 years on the planning and zoning automatically.
Hey, wait a second, I didn't see anything in the bylaws here in Montreat that martinis are even allowed.
Real fine print.
So I saw you at my art lesson the other day.
Yeah.
Or you take art? No?
Yeah, I sure
You
did.
have for a long time?
Dora, I
About
want
6 or
you to
7
watch
years
your
now.
husband carefully.
6 or 7? And were you in
She
arts
asked if
before
she had
that?
to take notes.
You know,
I said,
my
no,
wife-
she'd have a quiz when we got home.
She was a good artist, but we devoted our time to our kids.
Yeah.
I enjoyed sketching and stuff like that, but at one point she contracted cancer on my son now, so he said, I have an idea for a picture I'd like to have, just gonna make some more time with his fiance and it's been some man sort of Marcy, well, just her getting up, going downstairs, saying everything.
Morning.
It's not something that she could do with the medication. a lot more to get the right brushes, the right stuff, and everything like that. You know, this is a lot of my problem. But this is forced me to sort of move forward with some of this.
Yeah, it's supposed to rain and then rain tomorrow and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday.
I looked at it.
Does anybody need a motion?
Oh.
This is the time up here. Just to sort of feel like, I couldn't get rid of her.
Right.
So I had a lot of things.
There are two of those, he said, it looks like
Yeah.
leaking around there.
Looked around, and there was some goodness guy coming down.
Never ends, does it?
Yeah.
Never. Well, that's, but we need to, we put a new roof on probably about 2005.
It's like, I don't care.
Exactly. That's ridiculously cheap.
Well, I was, when I was at our son's in Tennessee, in fact, I looked, they have something here where they spray something on the roof, and they said it would last, it's 80% cheaper than replacing the roof. Plus, it's, would last up to 5 to 8 years. Let me see if I can find it. Morning. Good morning. Let's see if I can find it. I saw they, so I looked, they do have a company in Asheville.
He showed us.
Let me see if I can figure it out.
On his phone.
Good job, Joe.
Yeah, and you can like the straps.
So, because I mean,
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I would. I like backpacks.
Like when I was in second grade, but it's something that I've always thought.
I thought it was called
Pushing
Roof
myself in
Max.
different areas.
Just the way he sort of trains you, gets you to see things, it gives a lot of freedom. In my case, I hate this.
Oh, seriously?
Well, I started off, like Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi, like something like
Yeah,
that,
that-
doing all the, very basic football.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So,
The balls, and then
if you get
you
inside,
have to do the dog on the bridge.
Ah, great. Great. That does sound bad.
I don't know about that,
I needed them, I need
It
them.
sounds like something that would happen to me.
but Ellisville start off out being pretty quick, and then just, I think I've been experimenting with too many things.
It's a show they have. Well, I think I know they have one that was called Roof
You
Max.
feel that.
And they were advertising in Nashville, is where I saw it. I said, man, that's nice. But they say 80% cheaper.
I know. Yeah, there was a lot of work.
Because it is so.
Yeah, there's slides in there,
Basically,
along with the Rocky Knob contextual map.
and it dries stronger, so you need to anticipate. Have worked with the wash and some watercolors. Because watercolor, you want you to sort of paper and white sometimes.
5 years, can replace, apply every 5 years.
I've got 2 or 3 of them, the ocean wave breaking, the sun.
Said Carolyn, it's Liz.
You need white.
I said Carolyn, it's Liz.
Yellow.
Oh, I didn't
colors
even
like
hear you, Bill, on
Yeah.
You know what, my whole life I've been called Lisa. All kinds of things, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I
I
had
have
a gal,
attempted to
my
get up
grandmother
there
used to
several
always call me
times.
Elizabeth, and now
Good
I
if I got into about here,
which is fine.
there's a bear or something, somewhere along here.
Liz
Not
is
surprising.
And it's like, I'm not gonna, there might have been 2 of them.
Were you the
They had
youngest
that
in
pillow
the
bear, it's just like,
I always think, oh, I have.
you know, just kind of late. They've done like 2 hours.
That's a good call.
3 hours of hiking, it's like, this is,
Yeah.
not what I anticipated.
We had last night, but you probably, given where you live, you probably very familiar. Oh, you do? Okay. So we had this visitor last night, which was really cool. I had heard that they were here, but I had not actually seen one. This is on our deck.
Hey, tell me about it.
Yeah,
Got a bobcat.
It's a bobcat.
so I got one.
And where's it, do you live?
We live up on John Knox.
Okay, yeah.
Upside of the mountain.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm here.
It's just amazing.
well, I've seen other pictures of him here, for
Yeah.
Joel Barker or someone, and he was just right up on the,
It's gonna be interesting.
almost
Right.
looking to try to get to some of these birds. Yeah, so, I know we.
Trying to get in?
I have not seen it like that.
So I did.
Yeah, that may be too populated for them. We're, our house backs up to the wilderness, right? There's nothing behind us, so. And, so the sides of our
When you
house
go to
are
the
regular
airport, you stop off
wildlife
Second
trails
Street
for
before
deer
you
and
go
bears and
321.
bobcats and
That's a
coyotes,
good,
which
that's a
is,
good route.
Yeah, yes.
yeah, it's neat.
It's
But the bears,
It's all
I don't know if you're on
It's a
the
nice
listserv, but there's a lot of, talk going around about this one bear.
Town, and we had troubles with.
Yeah, this one bear's been hanging around our house a lot. I'm pretty sure it's the same bear that they're talking about.
Awesome.
And I like him very.
Thank you.
I view
Perfect.
black bears as other than among other cubs, as being pretty harmless. But getting too comfortable, my wife's not comfortable with it. Now that I'm hearing that.
It's
he's actually
another
doing
map in addition to the one, that was sent in for the conservation easement presentation. Thank you. So, yeah, no, nothing.
Do you know I got in trouble before it starts?
One small
First
thing
grade,
like
like,
stuff.
she just put tape on her mouth because I talked to her.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, that's a lawsuit getting ready to
I was
happen.
told that I asked too many questions.
She put,
I was told I
she put
asked too many
tape on the
questions.
mouth to keep it from talking. I said, that's a lawsuit getting ready to
Yeah, that's
happen.
right. I mean, it's there, it's just I have to wear glasses to be able to read it.
Well, yeah, I should have gone. I've got contacts, but, some of the stuff is pretty good.
People call me a bulldozer, an emotional bulldozer.
I think of you as a bulldozer. You're awesome.
We drove up to Mount Mitchell on Tuesday. And, we hadn't been up there in a while, and we pulled up, and so you could see
we're
kind
off
of
in here.
all from the park.
Yes.
And, it's great.
I mean, these are the trails, so it's like.
After summer, go peaks,
So that's gotta be, that's Stumping Knob Trail, so that's Harmony right
Is it on the
there.
website? Is it on the?
That's, I guess, the East Ridge Trail, I'm not sure.
This is the east,
Yeah.
West Ridge Trail.
Yeah, we've got
West Ridge,
bikes.
sorry.
It's called Peak.
So
Climb.
this
Oh,
actually,
okay.
And
oh, that's Stumping Knob, that's Stumping Knob right there.
Oh,
It's
okay,
that,
that's
Big
something.
Pine, that's
Oh,
Big
oh,
Pine.
okay,
yeah,
it's
that's
okay.
Big Pine,
They
yeah,
call it
that's-
Bushy Knob, right?
Yeah.
You're right, because it comes down to Lake. Okay, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, so we're over, like right up.
Yeah, I have that, well, that's on your Google
Probably
too.
right, probably right there.
Is it PIC?
PEAK,
And it's just an app,
yes, PEAK with Finder.
Oh, here it is.
that would be fun.
What does SAHC stand for?
Southern Appalachian Highlands.
No, oh, that's
Islands
$4.
Conservancy. Okay, I
No,
figured the
there's a
C was
framework.
Conservancy. Southern Appalachian Islands, okay.
So are neither, well, got the message. Is Daniel gonna be here?
No, it's not.
Oh, that's paid too.
Maybe it is, I don't remember. Huh. I thought it was free, but $4 was cheap.
That's Pete's, maybe but that's not it.
The mics aren't on.
But that's pretty cheap. I'll have to.
On mine is.
Please down, so.
Yeah, pull it forward.
Hello? Is this on?
Yes. Okay.
Oh, you know about using this on your Google? You talking about a plan?
Yeah, where you can look at a plan.
Yeah, just show it and it tells you where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I
somebody
don't
showed me
have
that.
Oh, I like that.
The PowerPoint's just gonna stay up because we won't be able to get it back.
It's great,
Okay.
Kayla. It's totally fine.
Where's Dan?
He, got COVID again, so they're sort of at the end of it, but we both had elevator.
Oh, Lord.
He said the meeting probably go fast because he.
It will be.
Yeah, text about 15 minutes and say we're through. I'll do it. I'll send him a text.
Yes, as quickly as you can.
Still stream.
I was talking about that, have his email address.
The dance.
Yeah.
You're fine. I do like my stuff out.
Okay, I've got 10:30 on one of my clocks, so why don't we come to order? Glad y'all are all here, and welcome to our July meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We welcome Dora as a member of the community, and just keep your husband in line, please. Let's have a moment of silence. Amen. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Let's make the motion, then there are a couple of changes to it that we have. I can't hear you.
Just the one.
Yeah, just the one. So somebody move to,
So moved.
is there a second?
I'll second.
And then Kayla, will you explain the change?
Yeah, so
as some of you may know, Angie's been out of the office with a personal matter, so we did not get a chance to get the April minutes done. So y'all will get those minutes and the minutes from this meeting at our next meeting.
So just make a note of that on the agenda. Now, all in favor of the agenda, adopting the agenda as so noted, say aye.
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 All opposed? It passes. Subcommittee updates. I believe there are no updates at this point. Would the chairs that are here just like to give a brief?
I'm sure I'll start with Hillside Development Subcommittee. First, I want to thank Alan and Bill and Kayla for what I just really think are great meetings. I enjoy the time with you all. We've all been working hard. We meet every month. We just met, I believe it was last week, going through the Hillside Development ordinances, and we've spent extra time on the density development chart and made lots of progress in discussion, in investigation, in learning, examining other communities, and also incorporating and keeping at the forefront the comprehensive plan and wanting to do things that are in line with those visions. So just appreciate everybody's help, and we'll be meeting again next month. So.
Can I add one thing? Alan and I did talk very briefly about the content, so we'll be ready to continue on at our next meeting. And
Yes, I reviewed the whole audio.
Awesome.
Great.
So I just wanted to note that our next meeting is August 14th from 9 to 10.
Good. Thank you, Kayla.
Great. Okay, John, sign.
On the signage,
Wait,
we
what's the
had
next
thought
one?
that we were ready to present this at this meeting, but some new items have come to light, and our committee has to reconvene to review those, and hopefully we'll be able to report back to this committee at our next meeting.
John, while we're here, can we set maybe a couple dates, and then I can circle around with Dan to convene us? I always find it easier to do that while we're together rather than over email.
I can't because of some items on my agenda.
Okay.
And so I'll just have to get back with you. I have talked to Dan, and it was discussed that based on the new information that has come to light, there is some urgency, but not a lot. So we're not pushing this for the next meeting, but we hope to have this done before our next meeting.
I think there is urgency.
You mind sharing that with us so we will know?
We have conflicts with, the content-based nature of the current sign ordinance. And
So there's risk in waiting?
I think we need to give it the proper time to look at the language, but it's not something that we can wait another 6 months or something.
Well, let me say too, that our next meeting is October, then the following meeting is January, and all of us will be gone.
Yeah, well,
So-
we'll have it before October.
October
Oh,
meeting
yeah.
will be the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
But I
think,
just can't set a date today.
yeah, I think shooting for October is realistic
Right.
to get it on the agenda. The reason I asked if we could set a date is just because it's very difficult to do that over email.
Well,
as you
Dan's
know,
not
yeah.
here, so that's,
Right, but I was gonna ask us and then I'd
yeah,
get with him.
I'll have to get back with you.
Okay, I will circle back with the three of you.
Okay.
And let's maybe look for something potentially at the end of August, beginning of September, if possible. So just,
Yeah,
we'll
that would-
talk.
Okay.
Just to clarify, so there would be a sort of presentation in October of what the work that's been done, then we can discuss it as a committee and then make a
Well,
recommendation.
we'll submit to the board, to this board, a draft of what we're proposing.
Okay.
So you'll have ample opportunity
Wonderful.
to review it. Yeah,
Okay.
we won't hit you blind.
No, and we'll go, we'll go a little bit deeper into some of like the changes from the initial draft to this new draft. And yeah, and then when it's on the agenda, we'll look to put it into a text amendment application to be then sent to the commissioners. Yeah, but you will get it. I'll make sure that, typically I send y'all's packets like a week in advance, but I would send this one earlier, just because it is a little bit more.
Okay. Thank you all. The zoning ordinance amendments research subcommittee, that's Dan's subcommittee, they have not met, and I don't think they plan to meet real soon. They're waiting to get additional things, including what y'all are doing. Which leads us now to Roman numeral 5, the comprehensive plan implementation. Mr. Tucker, we would appreciate you and I guess Kayla doing the presentation. Great, thanks.
So I just want to start off by just reminding you all that I put in your packets the tracker. I am going to update this after our meeting today so that it will be included in the commissioner's agenda for August. Since, we only meet quarterly, that way we'll, make sure that they have an update. And I'll also send you all a copy of that in advance as well. Okay, so I guess, Bill, do you maybe want to just talk about the summary really quick of what you and I prepared, and then I'll get us started?
Yeah, I think we're focused on the specific, part of the vision statement, focused on the environment, as laid out on the first slide, and then specifically objective number 6, which is explore conservation easements as an avenue for land protection. And so, broadly speaking, we spent time kind of looking at the current setting, the backdrop, what's in place today, and then looking at things from a planning and zoning and ordinance standpoint, and identifying potential areas for future discussion or opportunity. Is that the way I think at it? And then I think just in terms of setting the stage for the discussion, I think there are a couple of things that are important to highlight. First of all, we live in an amazing place. The natural beauty here, the tranquility, afford us all, both residents and visitors, incredible opportunities for recreation, for spiritual renewal, outdoor education. So we're truly blessed. And I think throughout the comprehensive planning process, the community made it clear that this natural beauty is one of Montreat's most important and cherished assets. And they view it as incumbent that we collectively as a community continue to prioritize preserving this for future generations. One of the key things I want to highlight is that Montreat has been incredibly visionary and foresightful on this topic for decades. And many of the key foundational pieces are already in place to make sure that this conservation goal is definitely enforced for future years. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think you summed it up really well, and we'll just go ahead and get started. So as Bill said, today we're going to give a presentation on conservation easements and development regulations. At the end, we do have 2 requested motions we'd like the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider, as well as some that we'll look at in the future, but we'll get to those. Bill? Do you want to, did you read it verbatim?
Well, he gave the objective.
Okay, yeah, so as Bill said, this is the vision statement we're focusing on, and this is the work that we've begun on objective number 6 in the comprehensive plan. Okay, so Bill, feel free to jump in, but I'm gonna take this one. So conservation easements. So these are voluntary legal agreements between a landowner and a separate entity where the landowner gives up certain development rights and limits the use of a specific area of land to protect its conservation value. So I want to highlight a couple things in there. These are voluntary, they're legally binding agreements, and they're between a landowner and a separate entity where the landowner is giving up development rights. So just keep those pieces in mind. There can be many different purposes for conservation easements: scenic enjoyment, plant and wildlife habitat, wetlands, things like that. The agreement itself details where the easement is, so specifically what area is being conserved, what are the development restrictions placed upon that area, and what are the management and maintenance requirements. So just jumping back to what development restrictions are placed upon that area, some conservation easements allow things like light recreational use, so hiking, maybe non-paved trails, things like that. Others are completely undisturbed. So it really is very context sensitive. What's the purpose, and what are these different things that could be done in that area? Conservation easements are typically permanent or in perpetuity and cannot be extinguished. There are some state and federal programs that permit temporary easements. To be honest, I don't really know a lot about those programs, but I did provide a link in the notes of this PowerPoint that talks about some of those programs, if you are interested in learning more. Conservation easements do not convey fee simple title. So the landowner still owns the property. They are just giving up development rights. So I think that's very important to understand, that the land itself is still owned by the landowner, but the rights themselves are given away. There are restrictions placed on the property.
Kayla, does that affect the ad valorem taxation of the property? Like that would reduce the value.
I have absolutely no idea. I know that when we talk about some of the next slide, economic benefits, so there are tax benefits. There is a whole process to where the tax value is determined. I think I put in here another link that talks more about
Bill was saying that
the tax value. Yeah.
Remain on the county tax roll with notations on the development restrictions. So as it relates to the Rocky Mount property that we'll talk about, it's actually in McDowell County, and it is still on the tax rolls there. A property bill is generated each year that shows zero.
And so that's one of the economic benefits that a property owner would receive by putting their land into a conservation easement, is that they would have a tax benefit, tax decrease. But that is far beyond my brain.
Depending on the perceived, inherent value of that land, the property owner who's putting the property into an easement could get a substantial tax benefit.
And these links that are that I added into the notes do talk more about that process. Okay, so again, we talked about conservation easements have economic benefits associated with them that are received by the property owner. And then there are indirect and direct benefits that are received by those around the easement, the preservation of the natural area, things like that. One other note is that North Carolina does not require, nor does it lend the power for a jurisdiction to require public review of conservation easements established within the jurisdiction's territory. So what that means is that if someone were to privately enter into a conservation easement today within the boundaries of Montreat, they wouldn't be compelled to have that agreement reviewed by the town ahead of time. Would not. Yeah, some states do require it, or permit a municipality from exercising that power. North Carolina is not one of them. So I did find that to be particularly interesting.
I think just a couple other quick things. You alluded to this, but the conservation easement, runs with the land. So a property owner can transfer or sell the property, but the
That's an excellent point. Yeah, they are in perpetuity, so permanent. Again, unless you're in one of those state and federal programs, that is a very, rare, I think, in my opinion, occurrence.
And the conservation organization or the governmental organization that is the grantee of the conservation easement or that, is basically.
Accepting it.
Yeah, they have a legal obligation to monitor and enforce the terms of the easement. And so typically there's at least an annual kind of audit process involved where they come out and physically inspect the land with the owner.
Yeah, and so just to dive a little bit deeper into that, on the first bullet where we talk about the voluntary legal agreement between the landowner and the separate entity, that's what Bill is referring to. That there is an entity that is identified, whether it is a municipality, a conservation organization, some nonprofit, something like that, that's identified as the one that is accepting that responsibility. Okay. So, Bill, you want to take the rest of this?
Yeah, so I think the objective stated in the comprehensive plan, explore conservation easements as an avenue for land protection, implied that maybe there's an incomplete understanding of what we already have in place, which is pretty significant. I can't really think of any other community that has what we have in place that I'm aware of. So I thought it would be useful to kind of just step back and talk about conservation easements that are already in place in Montreat. And
Bill, really quick, there are two maps. There is a context map that was included in your packet, and then there is also this map that Bill provided this morning. They did not fit on the screen in any legible manner, so that's why you guys have printed copies of those.
so I think, as most people know, 20 years ago, MRA placed approximately 2,500 acres of its property into a permanent conservation with the Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, or SAC. And SAC simultaneously executed an agreement with the North Carolina Land and Water Fund to essentially jointly monitor and enforce the terms of that conservation easement. This 2,500 acres encompasses most of the Montreat ridges and ridge tops that are visible in and around Montreat. So that property that is undeveloped today that you see, most of it is in a state of undevelopment perpetuity, which is incredible. As Kayla noted, MRA continues to own the land, but has and has certain rights to the land, access rights primarily for recreational purposes, and has a very limited ability to do development on the property. That basically consists of a few new trails, a few new footbridges, maybe another, a wilderness shelter, those kinds of things. But any specific project would need to be, that's new, would need to be approved by the conservation organizations. Also really amazing is that the Montreat Wilderness is part of the state-designated Graybeard Natural Area. And this area carries the highest exceptional ranking from the state of North Carolina, which means that it is considered some of the highest quality ecological habitat in the state, which is pretty amazing that that is our neighborhood, so to speak. Just briefly, I'm flipping to the next slide. So the Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, for folks that don't know, it is a member of the National Land Trust Alliance. It was founded in the 1950s. It's a 5013C nonprofit headquartered in Asheville. Its mission is to conserve properties in North Carolina and Tennessee. And to date, it's conserved about 73,000 acres in North Carolina and 14,000 in Tennessee. But they have so many projects currently underway that scope will continue to expand.
And there's a link to SAC's website in the PowerPoint notes.
So then looking at what's conserved or protected around Montreat, and here I will refer to the map that you just got for reference. So some of the key properties, the Rocky Knob property is the yellowish property that's to the north. It shows watershed, a very large blue area to the west. The purplish property that is National Park Service land along the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Cane River Valley property, which is another vast tract that's not visible on this map, it's to the northwest. And then Tim Sweeney owns some property to the northwest, to the north. I don't know if folks know who Tim Sweeney is, but he is the wealthiest individual in North Carolina. He was the founder and the CEO of a company called Epic Games. And fortunately, one of his big missions with some of his money is to conserve property in North Carolina. And then there's a few other tracts of private land that's out there. Specifically on Rocky Knob, I think as most people know, this is a piece of property that was bought by the Montreat Cottagers over 30 years ago for the sole purpose of conserving that property when they felt it was undergoing development. A family, actually a Montreat family, was selling the property, and the Cottagers were concerned that it might be bought and developed, so they rallied. They bought the property, they put it into a conservation easement. As you can see, that piece of land is about 202 acres. It's not connected to the Montreat Wilderness, but it is connected via trails and a toll road. And rangers lead hikes to Rocky Knob, throughout the summer, including one that was just a couple of weeks ago. There are currently discussions between the Cottagers and MRA about MRA potentially taking over ownership of that property, really for the purposes of just having all the Montreat Wilderness properties that are in conservation easement with stacks under one umbrella organization, and efficiencies related there too, and recognizing the fact that MRA, via the Cottagers, has the resource to actually maintain the trails and do things like that up there. A couple of other notable properties that are around Montreat, not in conservation easement currently. The big tract that you can see labeled Mill Creek Wildlife Club, that is the Bear property. It's about 1,225 acres. There's the Ridgecrest property, which is about 730 acres, most of which is the conference center. There's a tract of about 40 acres that is most known to Montreaters as a hiking area over to Rattlesnake Mountain, Copperhead Mountain.
Copperhead, yeah.
And then there's the Billy Graham property, BGEA property, which is showing up in yellow on the west kind of side of this map. That's about 135 acres.
Can I just add one thing, Bill? So I just want to be clear that when we talked about the MRA wilderness in the previous slide, that is within the municipal the ETJ boundary of the town of Montreat. So that is under the planning and development jurisdiction of the town. These properties, other than the Billy Graham property that's cited in the notes, are not under the planning and development jurisdiction of the town. So I just want you all to keep that in mind in terms of, when we talk about the work of the Planning and Zoning Commission, where that work would directly apply versus where it would indirectly apply. So just keep that in mind. And sorry, Bill took these pictures, just so you guys know. Yeah.
The top picture is basically a view of Rocky Knob standing on a graveyard looking north. And the second picture is taken from up on the parkway, and it's hard to see, but you can see the little double humped Rocky Knob right in the middle of that picture. And then graveyard is to its right, so that gives you some perspective. It's very beautiful up there.
Is there any reason the property next to Rocky Knob is blocked off, but?
It's a tract that's owned by private landowners. It's actually owned by the Burnett family.
Okay.
Who lost their property in the North Fork right to the reservoir.
Right.
Then lost most of their property that they, got subsequent to that to the parkway, but they have a small piece.
That's that piece?
Yeah.
Okay.
One other thing to note, and Richard DeBose wrote a very thoughtful note on this in it's on the MRA website. It was posted on July the 5th, but MRA does own 115 lots totaling 36 acres in and around Montreat in various places that are currently on the tax books for $2.2 million in tax value. authorities consider that land available for sale. And ironically, MRA is the largest single taxpayer to the town of Montreat, despite its nonprofit status, simply because of that property ownership.
Is there any discussion with them about putting anything more in conservancy under their lots?
I don't know that there's specific conversations about conservancy. These are very small tracts. And I would just refer you to, Richard spoke pretty thoroughly and eloquently on kind of how MRA views those properties and how that perspective on the properties has evolved over decades. So I think that's a good piece to kind of reference. Another way in which Montreat is incredibly fortunate is the active citizen involvement in a broad array of conservation and just preservation initiatives all around Montreat. There are 8 different organizations that are actively engaged in different environmental initiatives, as well as an umbrella organization under the town of Montreat, the Land Care Committee, that serves as a forum for coordination and communication amongst those groups. The Land Care Committee, the 8 groups are listed up above. Most of those are probably familiar to you. The Land Care Committee meets once a month on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month in this room, 9 a.m. In person and live stream. And I would encourage people who are interested in these kinds of initiatives to attend those meetings. I outline in detail, I think, some of the programs that are currently underway amongst those committees. One that has a lot of interest, I think, within the community that I would just highlight. MRA is currently working with outside consultants to create an updated recreational management plan for the Montreat Wilderness, the trails and all the infrastructure, parking and things like that around the trails, recognizing the huge growth in the number of folks who are coming into the hike on our trails and the attendant impact on the trails themselves, but also parking and things like that. It's a very thorough and thoughtful process. And I think, the goal is to maintain access to the public while also doing an appropriate job of being a good environmental steward for these pristine lands.
And I just want to highlight that in the notes, there's some additional information about the current projects and programs that the Land Care Committee is working on, as well as a link to the Land Care Committee's website. Okay. Oh, yeah, let's pause. Yeah, let's pause.
The presentation, because then we're going to shift into like the
It's different.
the zoning ordinance stuff.
Okay, all right, we'll keep going. Okay, so as we go through this, I just want you all to keep in mind all of the things that Bill has shared about, the work that is already being done in and around Montreat by these active groups. So I'm going to talk about how conservation easements intersect with municipal land use regulations. And just feel free to stop me if you have questions. Otherwise, we'll move through this. So I just want to start by saying that regulating land use can directly impact the conservation of open space and can promote development or conservation, depending on how the regulations are written. I think I talk a lot during our work about that balance between development and conservation and making sure that land is put to its highest and best use. Conservation easements can be a tool that is used by a municipality, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So the other thing I want to highlight is that remember that not all regulations apply to all development. I think this is something that those of you that have worked with me on some of the town's ordinances, something that we've really talked about is that when we're considering not only the intersection of conservation easements, of conservation easements with land use regulations, but when we're thinking about land use regulations in general, we need to remember that there are different types of, quote, development. There's new development of existing land. There's new development of new land. There's redevelopment of existing land. There's new subdivisions. So just keep in mind that, different regulations are going to apply differently based on whether it's existing development, so redevelopment, or new development. Just keep that in mind. I also linked a article that was written by Duke about conservation easements in the notes section of this slide that I found very interesting, if anyone's interested about reading more. Okay, so where are conservation easements used in municipal development regulations? So I just want to start this with a caveat that there may be other mechanisms that utilize conservation easements, but these are just the ones that I'm familiar with. So let's see, so we've got two. We have quasi-judicial and legislative development approvals with the owner's consent. So that would be special use permits and conditional rezoning. So as part of the approval of these types of development approvals, the approving body can put certain conditions on that approval if the applicant agrees to them. So often things like a vegetated buffer or, a screen the driveway, is an example. But if it's appropriate, the approving body could require a property owner to establish a conservation easement. This request would be based on the purpose of the development approval and had to be agreed upon by the owner. So that's one avenue that you can see this happening in a municipality. The other one is open space / conservation subdivision design options. This is a optional design avenue that would allow an interested party to pursue an alternative design scenario than what would typically be required by the subdivision ordinance, whereby they're allocated additional development rights. So something like a smaller setback, smaller lot sizes, more density, by voluntarily setting aside open space and natural features. Sometimes those areas can be set aside in a conservation easement. Sometimes it's by a deed restriction, but the ordinance would reference that mechanism. So that's another way that you can see conservation easements used in municipal development regulations. But conservation easements on their own are not the only tool that can be used to achieve a desired goal if the goal is to promote protection of open space and support overall conservation. So strictly looking at conservation easements is not our only avenue to achieving that overall goal. Let me get myself organized. All right, so I'm going to go through a couple other tools that are available to municipalities that, while they may not be directly establishing conservation easements, they also would support that overall goal of open space and environmental preservation. So the first kind of collection is zoning districts. So we know what zoning districts are. They're, a defined area that has a specific purpose with specific regulations, uses, setbacks, height, lot size, things like that. So base zoning districts are what I just said, delineated areas on an adopted land use plan that determine how someone can use their property. They have a specific purpose and subsequent regulations that support that purpose. The purpose of the district, which is where we can really see that promoting and achieving that goal of, for example, more open space, where we can really see that come to fruition, can be tied to conservation and permit only low intensity uses. Further, you have overlay zoning districts. So this is an additional level of regulation on top of a base zoning district. So in the town of Montreat, you have a town center overlay district, which is really, around Lake Susan and most of the college and the MRA buildings. And there are specific regulations that apply in that area that support the purpose of the town center overlay. So you have to comply with both the base zoning and the overlay district. And so what the overlay district does is identifies a critical factor within the defined area that offers, that by defining that critical factor, it offers more flexibility because it's not setting it to everybody, it's identifying this one area, saying there's a critical factor here that we need to address with a specific set of regulations that may not be applicable to the entire zoning district. Whereas the base zoning may be applicable to the entire zoning district. For example, maybe a neighborhood that has a vulnerable environmental feature. Maybe the whole neighborhood isn't necessarily, wouldn't necessarily fit a conservation purpose, but the areas that have that environmental feature would. And I can talk more about that because it's a little bit confusing, but these are just tools that you can use. Okay, next we have development regulations. So we talked a little bit about quasi-judicial or legislative approvals. So again, as part of the approval of those types of development approvals, the applicant can agree to a condition that they establish a conservation easement, permanently set aside open space for some specific purpose. The other one on here is open space requirements. So this is a regulation that's written into an ordinance that requires a certain percentage or area to be set aside as permanent open space as part of a development. You can require this to be under a conservation easement or a deed restriction. This is typically required and often seen in commercial and industrial developments and major subdivisions. And depending on the ordinance, these open spaces can be recreational, purely natural, they can provide public amenities, and they can also act as stormwater or flood control areas. So that's not typically something that you see with, just like a single lot development, but is often seen with larger scale development. So one example would be a PUD. This is something that you'd potentially see in there. You can also incentivize this regulation by making it voluntary and offering additional development rights. So like when we talked about the conservation subdivision design, if in that situation, if the developer were to set aside a certain area of their property and leave it undeveloped, they would be allowed to have more lots. And so you're incentivizing the set aside of land in favor of someone receiving more development rights in the area they're developing. Okay, and then the last one is what I just talked about, so conservation subdivisions. I'm not really gonna go over this again, but those two images are from a report that I believe I linked in, yeah I did, I linked in the notes of this slide, but those two images show an example of what a conventional subdivision would look like on the top versus what a conservation subdivision would look like on the bottom. So a lot more dense, same number of buildings, but more of the land has been left natural and untouched. Okay, so now I want to talk about what Montreat's current land use regulations do that support conservation. Because while there are groups that work outside of the land use regulation, and there are areas that are already under conservation and being potentially examined for conservation, there is also a lot of work that Montreat is already doing in their land use regulations. So I just want to go through these. So zoning districts. So the town has two zoning districts that speak specifically to conservation purposes. That's the woodland and the conservation zoning districts. Overlay districts, you guys have a ridge protection overlay district. You can read about the purposes of those districts in the zoning ordinance, but they do speak directly to conservation and limit most uses in those districts. Development approvals, we talked about this already, special use permits and conditional rezonings, potential for conditions consented to by the property owner that would lead to the permanent set aside of open space. PUDs also require a provision of open space. So PUDs have to show some sort of open space. And if y'all will remember from our PUD training, when we talk about what that open space looks like, it's really contextual to that development. Hillside development ordinance. So we limit disturbance and prohibit vegetation removal. And we also provide requirements and incentives for revegetation and landscaping. The town has a tree ordinance. This applies to town property and areas in the green space agreement. This limits tree removal and requires planting plans for town properties. And I just want to note that the tree board administers the tree ordinance, not planning and zoning commission. So just to be clear. The town does have a conservation subdivision option in the subdivision ordinance. And then we also have the green space agreement, which is a very, very unique piece of Montreat's land, existing land today. And there is a designation for land under that agreement that is hatched green. And so I've talked about the green space agreement in other times, so I'll just say very briefly here, those hatched green areas are set aside for things like recreation, open space, beautification, things that support that overall conservation, open space, environmental, the environment vision statement. So I just want to just stop and take a moment and just really be clear that the town is doing a lot in terms of conservation. This is a very clear priority. This is something that is already happening. It's not something that we're starting with from scratch. Okay. All right. So this is a map of the existing conservation easement areas in the town. It's not to scale. It's not, it's, I drew this by hand, so it's not perfect, but it gives you an idea, and I think it speaks to how much of the town is actually under a conservation easement. It is a majority of the town's planning and development jurisdiction. You can see the planning and development jurisdictions outlined in red, and the municipal boundary is outlined in blue. The hatched areas are the extraterritorial jurisdiction. The area in that greenish color is the SAC conservation easement or the Montreat Wilderness. And then the areas that are inside town that are hatched green are the hatched green areas from the green space agreement. And I'll have a zoomed in zoomed in image to show you of the municipal boundary. But again, I just want to highlight that, most of the town's planning and development jurisdiction is under a conservation easement. And then this is a zoomed in image of the municipal boundary. So you can see there are large swaths running through the center of town, mostly along Flat Creek, and then some other areas outside of that, that central kind of vein of town that are considered hatched green areas. So again, they have that restricted purpose of recreation, beautification. There are some other stipulations that are in the green space agreement that I'm not going to go into, but we can see within town there are large swaths that are under restrictions. Yeah.
Kayla, it says P&D jurisdiction, planning and development. You said, you really mean planning and zoning?
It's the same thing.
I mean, it's our jurisdiction is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything within the red is where the town's land use ordinances apply. Okay, so I want to pause before we go to the important considerations and just ask if there are any questions about the pieces that I went over. I know they're a little bit technical, so are there any questions? Okay, all right, so important considerations, and Bill, feel free to jump in. So I'm just going to go through these. A municipality can require conservation easements based on specific regulations, but it's not the only tool available, and it's not always the most effective to achieve the specific purpose. So remember, conservation easements are tied to a specific conservation purpose, and it's not the only tool that we have to achieve that goal. Conservation easements and encouraging conservation through zoning are not a method of preventing development. Instead, these regulations should be implemented to encourage smart development and the highest and best use of land. So planners and those that work in the planning environment, like Planning and Zoning Commission, should be cognizant that sometimes pure conservation is not the best option, and on the flip side, pure development is not the best option either. We want to critically examine the land offered for conservation. Is this the best use of the land? What is the quality? Does it serve a conservation purpose, and how will it be maintained? Few new regulations will affect existing low-density residential development, which is most of what makes up Montreat. New regulations will have the largest impact on new or redevelopment of non-residential properties and major subdivisions, of which there are still a few opportunities, such as the Billy Graham property in the ETJ and some of the undeveloped MRA lots. That's where the new regulations will have the largest impact. Bill, did you have anything to add to that? Okay. All right. So next step. So I figured we'd close with this beautiful picture of the valley from Lookout Mountain that Bill took. We have broken up our requested motions from the Planning and Zoning Commission into kind of two buckets. We have those that are more kind of need to be done now to move us forward, and then those that we'd be looking to accomplish in the future. So just to be clear, the only two motions that Bill and I are asking for in support of this goal are the two that are under the now category. The rest we'll return to at a later date based on what we find under the now.
Do you want to make those in the form of a motion?
Well, I mean, I'd like to discuss, and I think Bill and I were really hoping to get y'all's thoughts on the path forward that he and I had developed, and
It's
whether.
It's 11:15 now, I just want to move this along.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I guess one consideration is, as I noted, the land care committee under the Town on Street meets once a month. It is the coordination organization for all the 8 different entities that are involved in different activities in Mon Street. I think at least for a starting out place, it might be helpful for P&Z to more closely monitor the discussions that occur at those meetings. I'm happy to be, one person who will undertake that, either attending in purpose or via Zoom. But given the schedules and things, it probably makes sense to have a second person to tag team.
You're not saying that 2 have to go to every meeting?
no, but just so that you guys can coordinate between yourselves, and then, when we, how we have the subcommittee do their updates, just give a little update on what land care is doing so we can make sure that we're coordinating.
You want to put that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, sure.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, I would make a motion that P&Z appoint 2 members to in tandem coordinate attending either in person or via Zoom land care committee meetings and report back to the committee on significant developments. And when I say attend, that would be to kind of tag team one representative undertaking participation either live or via Zoom for each meeting.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think it's a great idea. And I think the idea of us getting some feedback from the hard work they're doing on the land care committee is important.
Ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
So who wants to do it?
I'll be one.
Okay, so Alan, so we have to.
Thank you, guys.
We'll assign Alan and Bill to be those, and y'all will work out how y'all will. Great, thank y'all both.
And they'll just come to at the quarterly meeting.
I had noticed that sometimes when we have our Hillside Development Ordinance meeting, that land care is meeting at the same time, so, just to keep that in thought, as Alan works with them.
The next motion that Bill and I had talked about was we really need to clarify what the goal of this objective is. So what are conservation easements, quote unquote, intended to accomplish? Because we really need to figure out what mechanism we should use to achieve this goal. I think part of that should include an examination of the open space preservation plan. And Bill and I, talked about this, and I've been working individually with, with different comprehensive plan implementation captains. But we really want to kind of maybe bring in another person, maybe two people, or see if this is something, no, you're good. See if this is something that we'd like to set time aside at the regular PZC meeting to do. Is it something that y'all feel would be better with Bill, myself, and maybe another member to meet and discuss? Or is it something that y'all feel would be better roundtabling it at our regular meeting?
I think it'd be good if y'all continue to do it, because y'all are familiar with it, and y'all could present something to the commission once you do that, with another person too.
Yeah.
Y'all happy doing that? Okay.
What do you think, Liz?
So my question is it sort of developing another subcommittee to look closer and then sort of have a conversation with the rest of the P and Z?
Yeah,
Help me
not
understand
as,
a little bit more.
I
Help
think
me.
not as formal. but
Okay.
yeah, we were hoping to just kind of discuss more.
So just,
Just kind of a discussion group.
Just a working group.
Yeah.
I would be interested in helping with that. Discussing it and exploring that and.
Yeah, so I think a motion to a motion for Commission Member Bill and Commission Member Liz to meet with the zoning administrator to accomplish this goal and return to, and to
Okay.
report back. Can we get a motion?
Okay.
Is there a second? Is there a motion?
Can't make a motion.
Can't make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we would have a working group that would examine the current open space preservation plan, discuss that, and then come back with a report to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second.
Do you want to, Kayla, are you intending that be at our October meeting, or do you think that'll take longer?
I'll reach out to you and let you know whether to expect it then, or if we need a little bit more time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further, or any discussion of the motion as second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank y'all for volunteering too.
And then the last, I just want to talk about the things that Bill and I had envisioned after we kind of get this piece done, is to examine the conservation subdivision ordinance. This ordinance was written a while ago, and so we want to examine whether the existing standards support what development of a minor and major subdivision should look like, examine the options that are available under that portion of the subdivision ordinance, see if they still apply today, and make sure that it's clear and enforceable. The next one is to consider implementing open space standards or incentives for non-residential development with special consideration for when these regulations would be effective. Most of Montreat is built out, so how do we make these effective and feasible? So I think longer term, that's what Bill and I had talked about looking at once I think we come to a clearer understanding of what the goal of this objective is and what mechanisms are the most appropriate. So we don't need a motion or anything on that, but I just wanted to let you know that Bill and I had kind of developed this as a path forward.
Okay, thank you. Any other part of this report?
I just want to say thank you to you guys. Beautiful pictures, well put together, excellent I think what stood out to me is what Montreat is already doing, and just the love for our community and the practical ways that are already in place to help preserve, and also things that we can look forward to. And thank you, Bill, for your presentation, and Kayla. It's very good.
Okay, ready to move on? I'm just trying to keep this moving.
Yep.
You'll see at the bottom of page 1 that Sally Stansfield, as y'all know, I think is moving back to Columbia. She has resigned, and she was working on the environmental objection 12. Didn't town council take this up though, and that's, okay, so she's,
I can give an update on it.
okay. So is there anyone who would like to work on that?
Well, can I give an update on it first? So as Bill said, Sally is moving, so we are going to lose her on the commission and in our subcommittees, which is a big bummer. And so I just wanted to provide.
Who is?
Sally.
Oh, you're Sally. I thought you
Yes.
said somebody else.
No, Sally. Unless someone else is leaving and they haven't told me. So I just want to give a quick update on where Sally and I had left off. So Environment Objective 12 has to do with the implementation of the hazard mitigation plan. Sally and I had a plan to get back together and move forward on some of the things that we had talked about. We had asked the commissioners for some clarification, had assigned some of the objectives to Savannah, the town manager, and then there were some things that myself as staff were going to do and some things that Sally as the Planning and Zoning Commission member was going to do. So that's kind of where we left off, is it's just on hold right now, but we do have a plan to go forward. And then Transportation Objective 1, that letter that we had talked about went before the commissioners. And instead of moving to allocate funding at this time in the budget to traffic study or traffic related improvements, the commissioners instead directed myself and then whoever's going to take this objective on, and Commissioner Tom Widmer, to start to have some of these conversations with the larger landowners, MRA, Montreat College, about possibly partnering on a larger study, with the benefit that the town can apply for grant funding, but we maybe can't provide the match, but maybe someone else could. So an opportunity for potentially a partnership there on both sides. And so right now that's on hold as well, because we don't have a Planning and Zoning Commission member to serve in that role. So what I'm looking for today is for the Planning and Zoning Commission to either assign a new member to these objectives, one member for each, one member for both, or decide that y'all don't want to pursue these at this time, and we can revisit it in January.
I can help on number 12 on the hazard mitigation plan. I think that's critical to move that forward. So I would be happy to help on that. Just need to coordinate on the sign subcommittee, but I think that will wrap up fairly soon. Unless anybody else wanted to do it.
Okay. Oh, good. Thank you for that.
We're going to spread all the work out here.
Nobody's
Consider
going to
yourself
arm wrestle me
appointed.
for
Where's
it.
Dan today? And
He's
Daniel.
sick.
Aw.
I'm gonna tell him we just left. We can.
Okay, and maybe
Thank
you
you,
can work.
Julie.
I'll do
find
it.
Somebody else on the other one.
Well, I mean, you guys need to decide if we're going to continue the transportation objective, number 1. If there's not interest at this meeting, we can always put it back on the agenda in October. And if we have the rest of our membership, and we may have a new member to fill Sally's seat, they may be interested. So,
I'll have you doing that.
I think so.
Okay. So we'll just defer that to.
yeah, I'd say
Till
a
October?
motion to defer assigning someone to that till October,
Okay.
and then motion to have Julie take over.
Let's do the first one. Julie, the first motion would be that Julie take over, separate them into separate motions. That place is there. She's willing to do it.
Need
Is
help
there a motion
wording
to do
I move that Julie Shell head up and examine the hazard mitigation, and help me word it. I don't have it in front of me.
It's To support objective number 12.
To support objective
on the
number
environment.
12 on the environment. Is that clear enough? Okay.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
And the other motion, Kayla, was?
Defer assignment of a member to the transportation objective number 1 until the October meeting.
Anybody want to do that?
I make a motion that we defer, assignment of someone to transportation objective number 1 until the October meeting.
Is there a
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes. Thank you. We're now to old business, I believe. Kayla, anything to point out?
Yeah.
We did talk, and I talked to Dan. Dan is going to wait. No, Kayla's agreed to do this at Dan's request.
So the 2023 bulletin for planning and zoning legislative updates was sent out. Those are effective, so we do need to update the ordinance. And I had put on here to decide whether the Planning and Zoning Commission wanted to reconvene the zoning ordinance subcommittee to draft that language, or if they just wanted to have staff do it, and then I'll bring it to you at the October meeting. And then do you want to share what?
Yeah, and Dan and I talked this morning. He would prefer staff to do it.
Yep.
That sounds,
So
yeah.
would y'all like to, motion would be that we'd ask staff to draft language to address the required legislative changes.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It passes. Thank you. And thank you, Kayla. for-
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Bill.
I'm sorry, new business, schedule a special meeting for P and Z to hear a tentative text amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding fences.
Yeah, so I have received a just informal inquiry about potentially a text amendment to the fence regulations. I don't know what that will be, but I did, while I had y'all here, want to maybe talk about a couple potential dates that would work. Towards the end of August, maybe, actually, let's just look at September. I think that would be
Do
easier.
we need to do that if we don't even have a proposal before?
I mean, it's so difficult to schedule meetings with you guys via email. I will say it is really difficult. So I just like to have some tentative dates, if you guys want to give me a couple, and then,
Sure. Would you propose any?
yeah. So let me open my calendar.
And are we looking for Thursdays at 10:30?
It's flexible. I could do a Wednesday if that works better, or if that Thursday date is preferred.
Do we have a Hillside Development meeting scheduled for September?
We do. It's the 25th,
Okay.
9 to 10.
Could we possibly, well, is that too much in one day?
I think it's gonna be too much.
Okay.
So I could do dates that I have open on my calendar would be Thursday, September 19th. Let's see. I could also do September 4th. So September 4th, September 8th, or September 19th. Do those dates tentatively work or no?
On the
I know,
fourth,
I'm
the
looking.
President Heritage Center has a mission conference that's going on.
It's the second.
Go to that.
Okay, is that all day?
Excuse me.
Yes, it's a,
Okay, so the 4th is out then,
I like the 19th.
the 19th? Does that just tentatively work for everybody?
Yeah.
You're out of the country.
We'll
okay.
dedicate to, what day of the week was that, Kayla?
Thursday.
That's a Thursday.
September 19th.
Thursday the 19th.
Okay, so I know Bill just said that he's gonna be out of the country, but we, for all of September. So we'll just go ahead and we will make sure we have a quorum.
Okay,
Um,
right.
So we'll just tentatively say the September 19th at our regular meeting time.
10:30?
Yeah, and then and I will let you guys know well in advance if we're going to have that meeting or not.
Okay.
But we'll just keep that on the calendar just in case. So I really appreciate that.
Okay. Great. So just as a reminder, Hillside Development will be August 14th, 9 to 10, and then September 25th, correct? From 9 to 10. You guys are always welcome, other committee members and the public.
We've got a good chairman of that committee.
Oh, right.
Next regular meeting is October 17th at 10:30. Put that on your calendars. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I would say that Mr. Burns appeared here about probably 40 minutes ago. We're glad you're here too. Like as a former member too.
Yeah. Good morning.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank y'all. This was a
Yay,
good meeting.
great. Thank you, guys. Bill, take pictures for us if you're out of the country.
Where are you going?
Going to Iceland and Scandinavia.
We expect like a PowerPoint presentation when you get back, okay? We'll come early for 30 minutes, have coffee and donuts, and you can give us.
Bill's bringing birthday cake.
There you go.
There's some awards and stuff up.
That was good.
Thank you for doing whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Number 12.
Number 12, I got it.
Know 'em by heart.
Yes, sir.
They come down from the north.
Okay, August 15th, let me get to my,
Sure, I'll have to go back and look. We did it.
okay, I've just checked, work calendar, afternoon would be better, let me just let you, yeah, take care. Okay, August 15th, from a
We have a
personal
roofing
standpoint,
contractor coming to our house at 11:30.
I think that should be fine. Again, the afternoon's better.
I gotta.
Yep,
Today
Thursday, yep,
it's,
August 15th,
All kind.
okay,
We've already gotten,
thank you.
we've already gotten one from
Sign,
his, everybody got one more.
contract.
Let's see, another one's coming in next week, I believe. Starts with an R. Anyway, I'll find out.
Yeah, because we're just getting like an evaluation done.
We, I called our builder. Sean. Yeah, well, we're gonna have to replace, to redo the whole roof, because we have to really want to spend. So, said that we can do certain things that replace this, the caps, right? I think we've got two of those. And he thinks that'll probably be enough, but that's only $9. So that would be good. That's Balkan. That's not Balkan, that's,
Let's see.
what was their name? It's the one that came last week. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Julie, for volunteering.
Absolutely, thank you.
Good to see you.
Same with the 18th, would have to be in the afternoon as well. 17th, I'm flexible. And then the 26th, anytime.
No, I'm headed back. I was actually up for 4 days earlier in the week. It was a little hot. We came in Sunday and it was pretty warm.
Yeah, it's been much warmer than until today.
Until today, like the rain is coming and then we're gonna see.
Okay,
How is the North Bank?
It's good. Boy, the stock is up. That's nice.
what?
The stock is up.
Yeah, it's been a
Yeah, so,
great run.
yes, exactly.
In fact,
So
I've been
it's,
selling.
yes, it's looking a little bit more positive now that the NII outlook is more positive, so. I would just like to not think about it for a little while. Yeah, how are you doing?
Everything's to stay interested and busy and, it's been good.
Oh, that's
Enjoying
awesome.
being, enjoying being full-time resident now, which is great.
Yes, I've got, about less than 2 years.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I got my countdown
You
clock.
have that date on your calendar?
Yes, I mean, it's, triangulating amongst, kids and college and just kind of selling the house in Charlotte. We'll wait.
Yeah. Where's your house in Charlotte?
Here in North Florida.
Yeah.
Near Salmon Pub, which seems to be a cultural touchstone for some people. Everybody knows where Salmon Pub is.
So where is Selwyn Pub? That's not the.
It's on
former-
Selwyn and Colony is where we're close to the corner of Selwyn and Colony.
Okay, is it a new establishment or has it been there forever?
Maybe 25 years. It's like most of the people that seem to know it, were in the area during college.
So it's like, I guess, is Providence Sundry still there on Providence? Do you know that place?
Yes, that's over, probably a few
But
miles,
similar kind of place,
east of
it's been
us,
there forever.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely area, but yes, it's, this is where we want to be.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, we've loved it. Just the whole mindset of this being this transformation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's why I volunteered to be on this commission, so just invest in the community that would be a part of it.
It's great.
For sure.
Always great to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, and I think that's a yeah, but maybe just take another look at them and look at the two options and kind of in the ether of those words, kind of wrap your mind about what the implications of one option are versus the level of risk.
Oh, sounds easy.
Tell me about it.
Okay.
You might look at your calendar and let me know, 17th, 18th, 19th, 26th, all in the afternoon.
Okay, I can tell you right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead. I've got all my calendars, so let's take a look because,
And then I'll get with Dan.
okay, so you want kind of like a ranking?
Sure.
The 17th is great.
Okay,
It's probably my number one choice.
okay.
18th is actually, let's see what that meeting is. 18th is equally good, and actually, I might prefer the 18th because then we're gonna be here the morning of the 19th, right? For the special meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
So one is the 18th, two is the 17th.
That's exactly right, and I'm just looking at my personal calendar to see if there's anything. Oh, yeah, I can't do the 17th because I've got to take a kid to a doctor appointment, so the 18th is my number one.
Okay, 19th to 26th.
The 19th, if we would do it, it would be in the afternoon,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Yep, yeah, I could do it. I still prefer the 18th, and then you were also asking about the,
26th.
I can't do the 26th.
Okay.
So it would be the
So one
18th
and
or the
two.
19th.
Gotcha. I'll let you know.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,